And this is what I mean by a rolling boil. You hear that sound, you see all the steam coming out. With this lid, it is boiling. Alright, so then you're going to start your timer for whatever it is your recipe calls for. This wants us to process it for 10 minutes. And then we'll cool it. Little side note about canning. If you're going to be canning all day long like I am, you will not want to cook anything else. Thus, I am having a tiny pizza for lunch. Do not judge my tiny pizza. Alright, it's done processing. Now, we turn the burner off, take the lid off, and it will say to let cool in the pot for a certain amount of time. This time is 5 minutes, so I'm setting an alarm for 5 minutes. And then we'll come and retrieve these guys. Okay, if I wanted to finagle with these, I could get them out of the water, let them cool for a little while, and then lift this whole rack up. However, I have my handy dandy grabbers, so I'm just going to do that. You're going to want to take them, try to lift them as straight up and down as possible, and put them down on a wire rack, not directly on the counter. Again, cold counter, hot jars, not good. You're going to want a towel underneath because this water that's on top is going to run down. That just helps with cleanup and stuff. And you don't want to get that water off or anything. You don't want to tilt the jars because that can create a false seal. So just straight up and down. And if some of the water comes off, that's fine, but you just don't want to tilt the jar. Okay. Just get the last of them. And one last thing, then we're going to wait for these guys to cool. See, that one's draining right now. That's what I'm talking about. One last thing is that you don't want to be running an air conditioning or having a open window. Any kind of cold breeze that comes and hits these jars can shatter them. So if it's hot because you're canning and you would like some AC, what you do is you run it while they're in the pot, and then you turn it off before you actually get your cans. And then you wait, and these... Oh! I caught it on camera! I was going to say, you wait and they should pop. They should pop like that within about an hour. They do say to wait 24 hours before you, so they can cool and the seal to form, and then you'll check your seals. So we will come back to these guys, whoops, in about an hour. Yes! Oh, okay. And that one's already popped. So they've all popped. So that means all 4 of these are good. But I was going to say we'd come back an hour to see how many of them popped. Usually almost all of mine do. So they all did. So we'll come back in an hour to get the rings off and write their names on them and put them away. Alright, our first step is going to be removing all of these eggplants. And then we're going to wash all of the tomatoes and chop them up. And then I'm going to pick more tomatoes and do the same with those. The apples just tried to kill me. Took a step outside and this apple tree just dropped an apple almost on my head. Ugh. We're going to pick tomatoes from the tomato forest. This is about a 6 by 30 strip of land that is just, well, it's not just tomatoes. It's tomatoes and herbs and peppers and blackberries and grapes, and rosemary, but mostly tomatoes. And we're going to go in, pick a bunch of tomatoes to make my tomato sauce. This is a 2-day canning extravaganza on the weekend, pretty much on the weekends. Every weekend during fall harvest time, I can. I do suggest that things like peeling the pears takes a long time. So do your pickles while your pickles are processing. You can, because pickles are quick and fast. So do your pickles and your pickled green beans and all that. And while they're processing, you peel pears. So pears will be the last thing I do. I don't know if I'm going to get to them today or tomorrow. But it is time to pick all of the tomatoes so I can do chopped tomatoes. Maybe some more salsa. I feel like I need a lot of chopped tomatoes. I'm going to can some chopped tomatoes. Maybe next weekend I'll do salsa. Sometime later. Yeah, there's a lot of little green ones because these little tiny guys produce like basically grapes. And I just snipped them off. There was a huge tangle of them. But most of them are now all the way ripe. So, and next weekend I'll probably have this many more tomatoes. These little orange guys just are really coming in to harvest right now though. Before we were only getting like 3 on a strip, and now it's pretty much the whole strips are ready to go. Alright, time to turn these into all sorts of goodies. I think chopped tomatoes today. Yes. I won't have to chop these tiny guys though. I have really sensitive skin, and the tomato plants have fought back. I am breaking out into the hives from touching the tomato plants. I can eat tomatoes. It's just the green touching these bits, getting the sap on my skin, sometimes irritates me. Okay, the weekend's haul of tomatoes are chopped and put into their jars. Now I just gotta pour the boiling hot water on them and get them in the pot, and then they will be all ready to process. Still working on pears. My pot's almost full. But my chopped tomatoes have all finished. Some of my teeny tiny tomatoes didn't even bother chopping. So there we go. They are now cooling. Now that all of those pears are finally chopped, we add our applesauce, which is going to be, not applesauce, apple juice, which is going to be our sweetener. And we add, for the correct amount of lemon juice. And then we add, and then we bring it to, we let it simmer until the pears get soft. And then when they are soft, we will add in all of our dry ingredients and mix it up. I turned on the wrong burner. So yeah, then we will, I will immersion blend it, and then that will make the sauce that we will put into jars. It is day 2 of the weekend canning. I had to overnight my pears in the fridge, and now they will go in, heat up. I'll immersion blend them. They have had all the cinnamon and yummy stuff added to them though, so it'll be delicious. And as soon as they are hot and immersion blended, then I will put them in some jars and process them. As you can see, there's a reason I piled the pears up over the top. They have now cooked down and are about half of this pot.